Howdy, ladies and gentlemen of the Maroon Faithful, and any of you Florida Gators tuning in. Considering the viewership tonight, I got a couple of axes to grind, one for both sides. All right. So before we get to the preview, let's kind of get into those just a little bit here and have some fun. First, are Gators bigger in the swamp or the bayou? In Florida or Louisiana? Who had the biggest verified Gator in the modern era? Answer at the end. So hang with me and we'll find out. Second, I've all but decided that battered Aggie syndrome is a media psyop. Okay? I listen and listen and listen to these guys talk and pick, and then I watched Nick Saban take Mississippi State last week. Are these people going to doom themselves again this week? I mean, Nick, my friend, like Mississippi State was minus 14 and a half, even minus 15 and a half at one point. On record, you have Mississippi State as your pick. Were you picking them outright or just to cover? You were picking them with the points, Nick? Brother, I think you got a case of battered Aggie syndrome, and I think you're going to need some salve for that. All right? Did these people learn nothing? All these talking heads on all these podcasts? No. Still, they persist. I have not heard a single person pick A&M to cover. Not last week, not this week. Oh, sure. Like last week, no one picked us to cover. Okay? You're like, oh, sure, no one picked us to cover. Many picked us to win, but where's the intestinal fortitude? Almost everyone I heard was like, yeah, sure, A&M's going to win, but they're not going to cover. You know, they're not going to win by 14. It's going to be 8, or it's going to be 7 or 6 or something even closer. Now, this is not an Aggie thing. This battered Aggie syndrome is a media thing. They can't seem to shake the 8-4 nightmares. Now, to be honest, I actually have heard 2 people take the Aggies to cover last week. All right, I will admit it. One of them is talking to you right now, and the other one is on the screen. Now, in all transparency, I would love to tune into Drew a couple times a week. I'd love to watch more Texags, maybe even Locked On Aggies. I don't have the time. And just quite frankly, I try and do this podcast without listening to anything else Aggie oriented because I don't want to give you a take that's just regurgitated or something else that you've heard. I want to give you new ideas. So that's why I do it like that. So maybe one of them actually took the Aggies to cover last week. I don't know. Maybe. But that's about all I've heard. And it's continuing on. So, can A&M make it 6-0? I mean, it'll be the first time since 2016. Is this run actually legit, y'all? For you Gators, has Napier saved himself again? I mean, what are we going to do with this guy? I'm not rooting for you to win this game, but, I kind of feel for you in this situation. Maybe Florida has awakened after this Texas game. This game's going to prove that. It's going to prove a lot more from what I can tell. So now let's jump into it. I'm going to go through a little bit of stats. I'm going to make this interesting, but I'm not going to get too much into the nitty gritty. What I'm going to do for you is go through the game plan as I see it, the strengths and the weaknesses as I see it, and then I'll give you my prediction at the end along with the answer to that question. So who is Florida? Aggies, who's Florida? You need to know. You need to know what you're up against. You probably haven't seen a lot of them being played, but they are 24th in total D. It's very comparable to A&M. They are 49th in passing D and 26th in rushing D. So pretty solid group here. Now, if there's any knock on these guys right now, they're 92nd in sacks, 101st in TFLs, 93rd in turnover margin, and 40th in penalties. So it's not knocking your socks off, right? I want you to know where I think the strength of this defense is, okay? The muscle of this defense is up front. It's with Tyreek Sapp, it's with Brendan Bett, Cameron James, Brian Taylor, okay? All combining for, I don't know, well over 70 tackles, somewhere in that neighborhood, right about there. They are the muscle. They are the strength. They play very physical. They play very downhill, and they are a trusted group. Let me say that again. They are a trusted group. And this factors into the game plan as I see it. Okay, we'll speak on that quite a bit more. But know this about this group, because I gave you those stats: 92nd in sacks, 101st in TFLs. Okay, that's what you are going to hear a lot of the time from just the general average take. They tripled their sack total against Texas. Tripled it, y'all. They went from 3 to 9. They doubled their TFL average too. Why bring that up? I bring that up because of the same reasons I was talking about A&M and some of the things that were going on with us. We've been taking it on the chin about our defensive third downs. No, excuse me. Offensive third downs and our defensive rushing game. Okay, so there's been a lot of critique there for us. But if you look at certain instances, you'll see where the light switch flicked on and the team changed. Third downs from an offensive standpoint, whereas they've been problematic, we were 50% last week. Did you know that? Whereas before, yes, we were struggling. We were like 112th in third down conversion rate. Last week, we were 50%, which would place us somewhere in the top 25. Well, that's a lot different. And what's this team going to be? Is he going to be the previous 4-week team, or is he going to be last week's team? Same question's got to be said for Florida. Which one of the Floridas are you going to get? The one against Miami, the team against USF, or the one against Texas? Now, of course, that's going to beg the question about, well, yeah, but who is the Texas team? Okay, fair enough. Okay, fair enough. And we'll jump into more of that as we go. But just know the muscle is on the defensive front. The defensive front is all the muscle. And if they're the muscle, the linebackers are the brains. And it starts right with Myles Graham. Myles Graham leads the team in tackles with 29. Now, I think Jaden Robinson is going to factor into their game plan a lot. So I do want to mention him because he's nothing to slouch about. And he's been coming on. He plays a versatile role. He can drop back into coverage. I think he looks to me to be a bit of a quicker guy. He's a handy guy in the box. Like I said, he can definitely cover. But Myles Graham runs the show, and he's going to play big time run defense for these guys. Okay, so that's where they stand with the front 6 or 7. The back half of the defense, whereas there's not a lot of names, and to be honest, I'm starting on defense with these guys because the offense is going to completely overshadow this whole group, right? The back half and the secondary, not many names, just a scrappy group. That's the way I would categorize them, as a scrappy group, right? What I tell you they were in pass D, 49th. It's not shabby. It's not bad at all. It complements a nice run defense. They do the job. They don't let up a whole lot of explosive plays. They do it. I mean, just watch them. I mean, you're going to have a couple things here and there. There are definitely some opportunities, but it's a good group. It's absolutely a good group. So how does that match up? That matches up with our offense, obviously. So, Gators, listen up. Here's what you're going to be up against. A&M's got the 22nd best offense, 37th in rushing, 35th in passing, and we're not supposed to be good on third downs. We're 112th, like I was telling you, but we converted 50% last week. Okay, so to this point, here's what we've done. We've tried to figure out our identity. First couple of games, we were all pass. We go to Notre Dame, start to find a bit of a run game. All right, Auburn, more run game, find a way to win kind of situation. But each game has been something different. We found a different way to win. So really this team doesn't quite have an identity other than the fact to just say somehow they are getting it done. That's the strength. That's the strength of this team. Is Marcel good? Yes. Is Le'Veon Moss and Ruben Owens good? Yes. Probably great. Mario Craver, Casey Concepcion at wide receiver, they are fantastic. Okay. The offensive line, great. I mean, great at this point. I think what A&M's normally used to, we're going to say this group is great for us at the moment. The offense has a lot of weapons. That's the way I would characterize them. You try and shut down KC, and you got Craver. You try and shut down both, If you can, watch out for Bussy. He's our arguably third, fourth wide receiver. It's going to be difficult to get into the depth of your team and cover all of these things. Meanwhile, still committing to stopping the run, because either one, Le'Veon Moss or Reuben Owens, as proved last week, can break it off for 100 in this game, any game. So it's going to be difficult. We haven't even got into Marcel running much. Marcel, if he has any weakness, is going to be the long ball. He just has not found his stride with the long ball. However, that's not to say he's not an accurate passer. And it's not to say that he needs a nice clean pocket. He can create with his legs. He just doesn't tend to use them a whole lot. Okay? So that's our offense in a nutshell at the moment. Okay, we'll talk about the scheme and the game plan, a little bit more of the strengths and weaknesses down the road a little bit. So let's cover Florida's offense. Offense for Florida, 101st rushing, 74th passing, 94th in total offense. So this was against number 16 Miami and number 23 LSU. Then they go to number 13 Texas. This is supposed to be the number 13th best defense, Texas. Okay, and they put up 457 yards, just about, I think, 100 more than they've put up in any of the previous games. So there's got to be something to be said for that. I give you the numbers, and then I provide the context so that you can make a decision on whether or not you think that the team is the one that you'd seen the previous few weeks or not. There's been some significant changes with Florida. So I don't think you can trust those numbers. I don't. I do stand by my assessment of Lagway, though. Early in the season, my assessment was this. He's got a great arm. It's powerful. It's accurate. But when in pressure, when things are breaking down, he can tend to force stuff, force throws, and not check down. Okay? Florida Gators, you can check me on that if that's not a fair assessment, at least of his preseason profile. All right? Now, like I said, he's got an accurate arm. He's got a powerful arm when he can stand and deliver. He was 21 for 28 versus Texas, 298 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have an INT, but the man was 75%. That's a big number, 75%. That kind of number is something that breathes life into a team. Okay? The rumor is, what's being talked about is that his confidence is just about shot through the roof. Something about practicing sometime last week, things just really kind of started to hit. My guess is it has almost everything to do with Dallas Wilson coming back, 5-star wide receiver. He had 6 receptions last week, 111 yards, 2 TDs. He's a 6'3", 213-pound monster, okay? Monster. He's probably about, 13 feet, 8 inches, somewhere around the state of Florida record for Gator. Maybe that's a little foreshadowing. How are you going to deal with this guy? How are you going to deal with this guy, especially from an A&M standpoint? So, Gators, you listening? Okay, I want to say a couple things to you. I don't doubt Dallas Wilson's talent. I saw it. I saw it on display. I saw him go up for balls. I saw how quick he is. I saw how sure-handed he is, and I saw how many yards he could get after contact as well. He is a legit receiver. Now, he's just a pup, and that's scary. So y'all got 2 more years of him is what I understand, and that's going to get pretty nasty for somebody, okay? But here's the thing. A&M's secondary, particularly the corners, have already been doubted multiple times this year. Last week there was a few talking points about facing Brennan Thompson for Mississippi State. What'd he do? He didn't do much. What about Cam Coleman? Arguably one of the best wide receivers supposed to be in the SEC, or Eric Singleton Jr., also in Auburn. They're too deep over there. So it's not just like we had to cover one guy. It's not like we just have one shutdown corner. And as a matter of fact, we got more than 2. If you want to listen to the press conference this week from Mike Elko, you will learn quite a bit more. And this goes 3 deep. and I actually think four deep if you listen closely. You got Des Ricks, you got Will Lee, you got Tyreek Chappelle, and you got Shaw. Any one of these guys are excellent at coverage. Tyreek Chappelle, in particular, has enabled us to cover the short to moderate throws, and Des Ricks and Lagway have all but shut down any passing attack. Are they going to be able to do that against Dallas Wilson and Vernell Brown? I mean, that has yet to be seen and remains. I mean, Vernell Brown is a beast in and of himself too. 3 catches, 72 yards last week, right? He's a speedster, but a guy that uses his body well. They like to use him on crosses, but they will use him down the field because he's got so much speed. He's going to be hard to deal with. So can we bracket both guys? Can we commit safeties to both of them, all the while still trying to think about the same pretty much game plan that you might expect is going to be the issue, or what I actually said that Mississippi State was going to have to deal with was, and alluded to for you guys for Florida, is that you're going to have to cover KC, you're going to have to cover Craver, and all the while, if you can do that, you're still going to have to cover potentially at least one more wide receiver, and then still account for the running game. Jaden Ball is good. He's not elite, but he is good. He's going to give them what they need, a good, solid workhorse, I think is the best way to put it. Don't you think, Florida? He's got something like 5.2 yards per carry at the moment. I think it's a little propped up in my view. I mean, if you account for the first game, I think it was like LIU or something, he has something ridiculous, like 9 carries and like nearly 12 yards per attempt. I mean, stuff like that is just kind of an outlier. You take that out, and he's somewhere around the 4.3 yards per carry, almost a full yard less than that, but it's still a good number. And they ran him more than twice as much as they had in any game prior, something like 26 carries this last week. That finally ballooned him over 100 yards, but of course it took quite a bit to get there. So between all that, trying to account for all that, the question is going to be, can A&M actually deal with that in a solid way? Are we going to have to commit 2 safeties to bracket these guys? How are we going to flow from there and from these corners if they're going to be playing, some type of zone scheme, right, where the safeties take over the top and they're going to have to take underneath? It's going to pose a new challenge, I think. I think this is probably going to end up being the best group that we've faced to date, although we thought it was going to be probably Auburn. So A&M has the 21st best team total D. Total D, they're 21st in the nation. 32nd in rush D, 32nd in pass D. It's an even group. I mean, there's just not a whole lot that they're bad at, and particularly in third downs. The number is something like 1 third down conversion in the last 24 attempts. It's something ridiculous, Gators. Something absolutely dumbfounded. And that's probably our biggest strength on defense. But I want to warn you that the defensive line is probably the most improved unit, or at least the most surprising unit. If you don't come in with a lower expectation of the defensive line, then you wouldn't be so surprised about them. But most people thought we would have some issues there, myself included, because, you lost 3 NFL guys. So how is it that you come back with that kind of loss and have a better defensive line? Because we have had a better defensive line to this point. Okay. Cassius Howell is second in the nation in sacks. It's like 7 or something ridiculous. It's a deep and physical group. It's not just the front 4. This starts to get me into some of our game planning aspects of this matchup. Before we do that, though, let me give you some of the strengths I think that Florida and how A&M will complement some of those. So, as I see it, a bit of a weakness for Florida is going to be the QB run. on both sides, as a matter of fact. Okay, and we'll talk about each in their own right. Against Texas, Arch ran for 37 yards. Not a big number. They were just very, very timely. Okay, so a strength slash weakness, though, and that had a lot to do with this, is Florida likes to rush four. Um, they think they can get home with four. I think they can get home with four. I think they have a good group. I think they trust them. Okay. Um, the issue is when they don't get home. When Arch made them miss, basically, well, I don't know if I'm gonna really treat him fair to say this was the lone thing he did well. It was a difficult matchup. Offensive line wasn't doing well for Texas. They just weren't. Some of that's due to Florida, but it's pretty well recognized right now that Texas has an offensive line issue. But when he made them miss, along with delivering a ball in those situations, I mean, good things were really happening. If you look down the field, there were things available. Arch hit them sometimes he didn't. But if you can make them miss on the four, you can really make them pay. When they get home with four, and if they play the game right with four, it's really a difficult thing to deal with, right? They're dropping seven. What do you do with that? If they play that back seven well, it really shuts down a lot. It is hard to deal with. So um, that's just it's a strength and a weakness all in the one. When they do it the right way, it's a huge strength. When they don't, it's a massive blunder. It's almost like a missed assignment, or a blown coverage or something. It's just like what happened here. So I think they do have some strength with this the speed on offense. I mean, between Dallas Wilson, the rest of the specialty guys, speed is something that we probably haven't seen a lot of. So it's going to pose another interesting challenge to match up against their speed. Um, can can our cornerbacks run with these guys? Okay, especially Vernell Brown. I look at him and I think Dallas Wilson draws so much attention. I don't want Vernell Brown to get lost in the mix. I'm sure Elko won't let that happen, but there's still they can be this mindset where yeah, but Dallas Wilson, Dallas Wilson, Dallas Wilson. That's just any natural thing. Vernell Brown is he's dangerous. So a lot of speed, a lot of speed. I think we've got it available. I do, but that doesn't mean there can't still be a couple of key plays where they hit us big. Okay, so kind of leave it at that. If I'm gonna really critique this offense, this Florida team, I want to say, are they going to be able to play 60 minutes? I'm not sure where they're at with a depth standpoint. When I was watching the Texas game, there was points towards the end of the third quarter, early fourth, when I'm like, it looks like we're getting tired here. It really looks like we're getting tired here. Now A&M is rotating, 6, 7 guys on offensive line. We're staying pretty fresh. Same thing's happening on the defensive line, and right now I don't see we're not there with needing to at the linebacker or cornerback spot, especially not at wide receiver. In the trenches where it's most physical, we are very deep, very deep. You got DJ Hicks, you got Albert Regis, Cassius Howell, like I said, Haynes, Onyedem, even Ryland Kennedy when you need him. There's a lot on our defensive line. We should be able to rotate and stay fresh throughout the game. So come time for us to either close this thing out, get a decisive score, or get that score that we need just to finally take the lead, something late, maybe in the third, early fourth. I see that as being the possibility because of this particular issue. Okay. So what's the game plan? So Florida's defense, you look at them as from a game plan standpoint, I'm just kind of projecting what I think that they're probably going to do. And I think they're going to have to probably spy Marcel. This is what they did against Arch. Now he possesses a completely different or poses a completely different issue for a defense. He's a much bigger runner. He's not nearly as quick as Marcel. So this is where I think Jaden Robinson kind of comes into the mix instead of Graham. that you might want a little bit quicker guy doing this. Now, that could lighten the box a little bit, could provide some opportunity to run a little bit more so. I wonder if the wrinkle is going to be for Marcel to run, but that's going to be part of the A&M game plan. I won't touch on that too much at the moment. Um, so other defensive ideas that I think Florida might go with. They like to try and get home with 4. Okay, we talked about this in depth. Um, Texas, when the O-line did their job and they gave our Arch, some time to throw, as I said before, he had some things open down the field, and we can try that. Okay, we can try that. I don't know what the benefit of that's going to be, to be quite honest. When you look at what we did against Mississippi State, I kept watching us run 2 tight end sets, and I kept thinking to ourselves, like, let's add in a third wide receiver. Let's put in a fourth wide receiver. Let's test their third and fourth DB. Let's see if they can actually cover. We never really quite saw it, to be quite honest. It just wasn't there. And we continued to try and throw deeper down the field. And to me, it didn't make any sense. I kept wondering why these two things were doing what they were doing. Now, if we can do that, we can focus on these 10, 15, 20, 25-yard pass plays where Marcel's way more accurate. I think that gives us the opportunity that we would need against this particular type of defense. If we get some of those breaks like Arch got, where Florida tries to get home with 4, they miss, we make them miss, we get outside the pocket or something, and we try and launch one downfield and we overthrow Concepcion by 5 to 7 yards or more, we're missing out on a lot of opportunity there. Those are Florida may miss not a whole lot, just give them 7 or 8 times. If we don't convert on 3 or 4 of those, you just think about the opportunities that are missed out on those. Those are, say, 20 to 30-yard clips. And in the course of a game, if that's about 100 to 120 yards of your offense out of 380 to 400 yards, particularly in a defensive game like this one might be, that's a lot of offense that you're missing out on. That's a lot of offense. You can definitely chalk that up to at least probably a score, right? So I'm really going to be interested to see how we scheme that, what the direction is from Klein, what they've decided to go with when that sort of thing happens. Is Marcel going to have the keys to the Ferrari? Can he run? Or is he going to be looking too far downfield and not take the stuff that he's got available, in the 10 to 15-yard range? So Aggie offense, I think our game plan on this one needs to stay on schedule. First and second down, in my opinion, are huge. Florida loves to show different packages on third, just like we do. It's 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 or more. They feast, just like any other team does. They feast on these downs. I don't seem to think it would be any different here. Marcel has struggled on these, in my opinion. It hasn't been real clear that he understands where the blitz is coming from, which I don't blame him. But if we don't understand where it's coming from, do we know where we're going to go with the ball? And there's definitely been some ambiguity there and not a clear direction as to how he's going to deal with that when it comes up. So not being in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 or worse could be due to penalties on some aspects. We are highly penalized, Florida, if you're listening. Knowing what to do on those downs and being like in 3rd and manageable, 3rd and 3, something like that, where we can mix things up, going to be a big deal. All right. So I already talked about this a bit, but getting Marcel out of the pocket is something I would like to see, and I'm curious if it's going to be part of the wrinkle. A little caveat to this is when he has been forced out of the pocket or when things start to break down, he tends to break to his non-throwing side, which makes it difficult for him to, kind of sniff out a pass or something open down the field. He just didn't have the perhaps arm strength to, get back to, middle of the field type of stuff, which I don't blame him. I mean, that's just smart play probably. But if we can get him to his throwing side, maybe even to the long side of the field a little bit more regularly, there might be a little bit more opportunity here for this. So we'll see. From a Florida offensive standpoint, Lagway is got to have some sort of injury. I mean, I don't know how they're hiding it or how well they're hiding it. I mean, it's probably been there all the way back to fall camp, but it seems to be something with the foot. I mean, I don't go searching for a whole lot, but when you're watching the game, you can tell there's something going on. We knew there was something previous. I don't think he had a single rush in this last game. So I feel pretty confident that they have definitely bridled him and that he is not going to be looking to run. It's going to be probably a pure pocket passer. If that doesn't happen, I will be astonished. I really will. But along with that, that doesn't mean they don't like to run the ball, and they do. They love to run the ball. At least they've much more committed to it this last game. And when they run, they are most dangerous on the perimeter. Not so much between the tackles, maybe like B gap, C gap, something like that. But the perimeter is where they are real dangerous, and they love to hit that perimeter. So setting the edge is going to be a big, big deal from our A&M defense. Something we have actually struggled with from time to time, going all the way back to the Notre Dame game last year, when we let a couple big runs get busted on us, and throughout last year and early on this year. It seems like the issue's been resolved, but because of how good Florida is here, I'm very curious to see if this is going to be something that we are going to struggle with. I did see one or two plays in this last game where we still had the issue a little bit, and it just happens to be when the running back is just a little bit hidden and it's not very clear they're going to bounce it outside, and they do, and we're just a step short. The way it goes, right? So, the last thing I want to point out is one. This is actually a Florida strength, but it's an A&M defensive concept that's going to have to be dealt with. And that is, and perhaps this is the combination of Lagway with Dallas Wilson, now taking away a bit more pressure also from Vernon Brown. The creativity within Florida's offense has been much better, or at least it was against Texas. They're at their best when they are more creative. And A&M can definitely identify with this. We get down into short yard situations, and it's like, where is the creativity? It seems to just kind of be this square peg round hole situation where we're just trying to force a run into it, and we just know that doesn't work. Florida can be quite creative. When they are creative, they're dangerous. So how do we deal with that? I think to deal with that, you're going to want to do the same thing you're going to want to do when. So here's the other thing. Play action concerns me. Something like 12 to 13 play action plays this last week. Not the zone read, not the RPO. We are just straight talking about the play action. They pounded it 26 times and then play action 12 to 13 times. This, to me, is something where we're going to have to lean on our corners to do their job. I think we already trust them, but we are going to find out just how good and how trustworthy they are in this game. They're going to stay on those wide receivers, and can they stay right there with them? Can they make some plays on the ball? Or when it comes to a contested ball, is Florida going to come down with them? And these are the kinds of plays that are going to make the difference in this game in my mind. So, keys for A&M. The very first key is something I just don't hear anybody talking about. It's something that concerns me, and I just want to get it off my chest, and that's special teams. And that goes from punting from Tyler White to returning the returning punts, not so much worried about kickoffs or kick returns. Most of the game for special teams now is done on punt coverage and punt return. Now, Casey is great back there. It's the blocking that concerns me. If we can get the ball in Casey's hands, he can do great things. We just tend to hold or do something stupid or protect, let's just say, against a fake, or we've had punts blocked. We need to clean this up. Tyler White was much better last year. I don't feel like he's gotten his best game going to this point yet. It would be excellent if it came out this game. I think playing a field position battle is definitely something that could come into play in this game. I'm thankful it's at home, but if we can work field position, something I felt Mississippi State was doing much better than us, and I thought it was going to pay them dividends. Our defense was just too good. But if we can add that to our repertoire, man, we really have something else to list as a weapon. Okay. All right. For A&M, second key: stay the course. Trust the process. I want to wear them down. Okay. I want to wear them down. I want to run them over, and I want to do it late, and I want to do it with depth. I think you just, when we played Mississippi State, put two tight ends there. We pounded the ball. We pounded the ball, pounded the ball, and then we saw them start to give way late. I think we can do the same thing to Florida. They're going to pose a little bit more problems, so it's going to give us a look as if, you know what, let's go away from this. And I felt the same way, honestly, when we're going against Mississippi State. I'm like, what are we doing? Now, part of that frustration was because we kept throwing the ball down the field too, and when there was things open, 7, 8, 9, 10 yard range. But we pounded it, we pounded it, we pounded it, we wore them down. They just couldn't take it after a while. I think that's a good way to go. So I don't think Florida will have nearly as much depth. Okay? Convert third downs, both sides, especially short yardage offensive downs. Please, Florida, if you're listening, you want to know what's maybe my biggest frustration, maybe Aggies fans all around's biggest frustration, is running it between the tackles on short yardage downs, particularly inside the 10-yard line. We are not good at it so far, and we don't have a lot of creativity when it comes to that. I hope that when it comes to this situation in this game, we are going to go to the creative side sooner rather than later. It took us to, like, I think it was a fourth down where we finally gave it to KC on a cross, got the touchdown. But man, it looked like we were just going to try and hammer it right up the middle and get stuffed every single time. Difficult, difficult, difficult. So I really want to see more creativity from us on those short down yardages. Could be third or fourth. We tend to go for it a fair amount, quite a bit more than we have ever done in the past. I do wonder if Marcel is going to be allowed to cook. I don't necessarily want him to do a whole lot of running. I just like to let him have the option to get outside and do some running. Let him throw with some windows. See if that's going to be the wrinkle that Colin Klein goes with this week. He's been doing a pretty good job. Just like to see a couple things grow from him. So here's the thing. Where's the biggest Gator? The answer is Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas, don't you know? 14 feet 3 inches. I don't want to hear about your unverified BS that you've got about some sort of 19-foot gator that happened back in 1890. I'm not worried about that. I'm talking about the modern era. If you want to talk about all that unverified stuff, you can take that up with the boys from Beaumont and Anahuac, or as they might say, Anuac. Okay? So now you know where the biggest gator is. It ain't the bayou. It ain't the swamp. It's Texas. Score prediction: A&M 28, Florida Gators 20. It's going to be a heck of a grudge match. Respect the Gators mightily. Watch out for the upset, but I ain't got that kind of syndrome right now. I got us to win and cover. That's it for tonight, y'all. Thanks and gig 'em.